Welcome to Chez Cliff. Hello everyone, Cliff Duvernois here. Today I am heading off to a law firm in Long Beach. Once or twice a year, this particular law firm, they will put on a seminar with regards to estate sales, with regards to different ways to hold title to property, how to handle trust sales, things like that nature. The reason why I'm taking this class actually is twofold, is that number one, the laws are continuously changing. Every single year, our legislator is passing new laws, they're trying out new things, and so it's always good to stay current with that, any new laws that are going into effect. It occurred to me the other day that it would behoove me to attend this session because right now my family and I are dealing with my sister's estate, so it would be worthwhile to get kind of caught up on everything that's going on. The important thing is to remember is that when your clients come to you, when your clients approach you with these different situations, it's always a good idea to be able to present multiple options. At a minimum, know who to go to. It's almost impossible for anybody to know everything about every single subject, but if I can get at least a cursory knowledge of what's going on and be able to point people in the right direction, then that's what I did. I have served my purpose. I do this because I genuinely want to help people. So if I can glean some knowledge, if I can get a better understanding of what's currently going on in the marketplace with regards to these types of sales, then it's better for my clients all the way around. So I'm very excited. You're going to be coming with me this morning, so let's go. I really tried to shoot some video in my car. This camera is a little bit bulky, so it's a little bit hard for me to do it, and I tried to hold it out of my hand, hold the camera, and I couldn't get it to work. So obviously there's a learning curve here, but fortunately I was actually heading back home anyways, so I just thought I would shoot a quick little video to talk about this neat little class that I took. What was interesting about this class is, of course, you always learn a lot because the lawyers who put on this seminar, of course, they deal with this stuff every single day. There's wills, there's probates, and there's trust. And I always tell people, whenever they ask me about estate planning, I always tell them the same thing: do a trust. It's the most, not only is it the most cost-effective way to do it, i.e. you don't have to pay all those probate costs, but it's an opportunity for you to make sure that everything transfers smoothly, whether it's your real property or whether it's your personal property. Even if you have a will that is laid out, the will still has to go through some measure of probate. One of the things that we discussed at the class was this new way to transfer title, and that is actually called transfer on death deed. Essentially what it states is that you own a piece of property, and upon your death, this paper denotes that this other person X, now is now to have title to the property, is now the owner of the property. As long as the document as long as there's no protest, as long as nobody says that no, this is wrong, the courts just let it go through. There is no probate period. It's not as complicated as a trust, and it doesn't cost as much as a trust, but still this is causing problems. And let me give you a scenario. Let's say that you have an elderly father, and your elderly father, 80, 90 years old, he has a gardener. We'll call him Bob the gardener. Bob the gardener learns about the transfer on death deed. So what he does is he walks up to Dad one day and he goes, "Hey Dad, I know you like pizza, and this right here will let me get pizza for you when it arrives. Does that sound good?" And of course, your father, he probably can't read, maybe he doesn't understand what it is that he's looking at, but he says, "Oh, okay, I like pizza." So he signs the form. Lord forbid your father dies one day. Bob the gardener now has the transfer on death deed, and he files it with the court, and the court transfers it over. Meanwhile, all the kids are dealing with funeral arrangements. They're dealing with the memorial service and the obituary, and maybe taking donations for a charitable cause. They're completely clueless as to what's going on. Bob the gardener then turns around and says, "You know what? I'm going to put this house on the market for half price. I'm going to sell it and make a couple $100,000. So the kids now get around to the will, they get around to processing the documentation, and when the title company finally gets involved and they actually run a list of the assets, the title company comes back and says, sorry, but the person on title is not your father, it's Bob the gardener. So now it's causing all kinds of lawsuits because you've got people who either aren't in the trust or aren't in the family members are now popping up with these transfer on death deeds. This is exactly the reason why when the legislator passed this particular article to transfer this particular mechanism, they put a 2-year expiration on it, meaning they're going to try it out for 2 years, and if it becomes too much of a mess, it's just going to expire and we won't have to worry about it anymore. But from what I understand, based on what the lawyers are telling me, there's already a 2-year backlog of these types of litigation cases that are going through the court systems already. So now this, if it isn't painful enough that you have to deal with the death of a family member, you now have to focus on somebody being completely shady and trying to figure out which way to go. Now it's up to the courts, and I wonder how many estates are going to be wiped out or are going to be, just plain flat out eliminated because you have to spend all this money in legal fees and in court costs. It's actually kind of depressing that there are people out there that are this way, but you know what? They exist. And because we know that they exist, you can make sure that you just take the proper actions, always making sure that you're checking in with your parents, make sure that they understand that before they sign anything whatsoever, that they at least talk to you or at least talk to an attorney, but they shouldn't be doing this stuff without you, being present. Really, it's diligence, making sure that you're protecting your family, make sure you're protecting your family's interest.